Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Brass Knuckles event, in which the Brass Drake is added to the game. So, this week we have quite a few things going on. We have the Valentine's Day event happening this Wednesday, as far as getting the new pet for the year. We still have the continuation and finishing of the Lunar New Year event. We'll be able to go get the very long dragon, the pet that goes with it, and the power orb and the old armor if you still want to go get it. And we have a new raid troop coming in that is going to be able to do a little bit of lightning gems. So continuing with that mechanic. But anyways, let's start all the way from the top and go over the new Drake. Speaking of the mechanic, we do have another one of it as far as lightning gems are concerned. It converts all purple gems to blue lightning gems. And if the Dragon Commander, the new raid troop, is on your team, it will also explode a gem, which of course is essentially trying to get alignment off of them in order to get a chain reaction that kind of just explodes the whole board, or more so destroy, since lightning does do destroy instead of explode. So the one explode that you do is 50% mana, but all the lightning gems that get exploded will do 100% mana from the destroy. Overall, biggest issue with this, no damage follow-up. Why, I don't know. It doesn't do anything but mana accumulation, which just seems a little weird. I don't know, it just feels like it's missing something. It feels like it should have like a whole extra effect of some kind, even just something small. Do what dragons do, just do like a full AoE, but like half their magic or something. It just feels like it's missing something to be viable, unfortunately. I don't really see a use case where you're going to use this just for mana accumulation. That's all it does, so I don't really see a time where we bring it out. If this wasn't power, that'd be a different story, but it has a 50% mana start, so I personally do not really see a use case for this. Even in a pure dragon team. Almost more so in a pure dragon team, because there's just so many good dragons these days. But yeah, even if she's on your team, I don't really see a reason why you would use this. Like in the main situation where it might be viable, the raid event this week, like even then you're probably not going to be using this on your team. Even a low rarity team I showed, I don't even bother using this on it. It's just not worth it in most situations. But unfortunately, not going to get used. One weird thing about Sword's Edge though, Sword's Edge, even prior to these true troops, was already 30 star. It, to my understanding, has the most troops of any kingdom in the entire game by quite a margin. I think almost like 3 more than the next highest. Definitely 2 more than the next highest. But yeah, it's already been level 30, and now it is super 30, so I wouldn't be surprised if they expand the system to like 35 or 40 sometime in the future, as Sword's Edge is already multiple troops above the threshold for completely maxing out at this point. While I'm here, I might as well go over. We did end up getting a new trial team today. It is one of only 3 trials from when they started that new trial system from about a year ago that still has not had a kingdom event yet, and Sword's Edge, main reason why this one got delayed so much, is already had so many troops, so they weren't really trying to give it another event anytime soon, and yeah, that's the third to last one to get it. As far as the team is concerned, you basically just keep spamming buffs until you win. It should be pretty straightforward. You can even just do it in default order, though you might want to put your Queen Isabel in second slot or last slot, depending on how you want to run it, but by default they should put it into third there. But basically, your whole goal is Knight Coronet. You'll remove all the purple so that Shadow Dragon isn't too annoying. There's a little bit of chip damage, but the main premise here is Man at Arms applies barrier and gives you a little bit of attack to your Knight Coronet, and Queen Isabel does similar. They both do an attack and armor gain. Queen Isabel will make this do damage based on its attack. That also hits through any kind of skull reduction, so if they have 25%, it'll hit through, because it actually does spell damage, not physical damage, or not skull damage. Even though it is doing it based on their attack value, it is doing specifically spell damage, so all these things that have small amount of skull reduction does not actually count. So you'll just be able to hit right through that with Queen Isabel's. You get a little bit of mana to all your allies, and Sir Gawain's mostly just here for backup summon. If you have lower stats or anything similar, you just keep resummoning with Sir Gawain, get your team back, and just keep chipping them down. Biggest issue with this battle is if Shadow Dragon gets a hit off into a Wolf Knight, that's a lot of true damage, especially at the higher fights, and depending on your stats, that could be enough to one-shot cycle you, as in both of them hitting you once, killing. If Shadow Dragon hits something and then Wolf Knight decides to hit the thing that it hit, that could be enough damage to kill you depending on your stats, and that's probably going to be the most annoying thing. Most likely just reset every single time that happens, and just keep doing it until it doesn't happen. But that's pretty much the whole game plan then. Just hope you don't get Shadow Dragon, Wolf Knight comboed, and just chip them down. Other big issue that this team has is it can only really kill from the top down. You can technically hit back slot with Knight Coronet, but given that you have so much attacking between Man at Arms and Queen Isabel, you're mostly just hitting it from the top down. which means Wolf Knight's not going to get dead till second, and Shadow Dragon's going to survive the entire battle all the way until the end, unless you somehow get enough Knight Coronets down to actually chip it down, which at the higher level ranges is very unlikely to occur. So mostly the top down, but overall it shouldn't be the worst one. Definitely not the easiest, not the hardest, but definitely the most straightforward one we've had in a while. And if anything's starting to get close to death, you can just put a barrier on it for man-at-arms. You could even keep them just for that purpose if you want to, as Queen Isabel will supply plenty enough damage to your Knight Coronet to get enough Scold going and enough armor to keep it alive. But anyways, that's the trial. And we only have 2 more new ones too. If we go to our unowned for pets, there are only 3 we haven't had, now 2. They are Sword's Edge, which obviously we have this week, Kizil, which I believe we have soon, and Shentang, which not Shentang, and Ummergrim Woods, which I believe we will also be having soon. Though, speaking of this dragon, of course, we do still have the Lunar New Year event going on through the rest of this week. Definitely make sure to finish it over the next 7 days if you want any of the specific rewards. If you want to get everything, if you already have been, just throwing down 50 gems a day, and then 100 gem on one of the days will get you enough to get the Crimson Armor, the Tine Long, the pet, the golden version of the pet, and the Power Orb, though of course you can get whatever you specifically want to go for. And keep in mind, to get the pet, or all of the copies of the pet, you have to buy it 5 times here, by doing this for 100 5 times. And then after that, it turns to the golden version, where that you can then get for 200, costing 700 total to finish out the pet there. You just don't get to see them all at once. But yeah, 700 total gets you all the pet stuff done right there. And you do want to get the golden one, potentially, just because the cosmetic one has not actually returned ever in any situation, those golden ones. So if you want it just for completionist purposes, it is there. Anyways, aside from that, other things. Let's go over the Gilder-related event. So we got raids this week, of course, as with the rescaling of the raids as of several months ago. You do always want to make sure you use the raid captain. You're probably already going to be doing this anyways, but she does have twice magic, but more importantly, she has 2 times score. So extremely important that she is in every single one of your teams throughout the entirety of the battles. As far as your restriction, it is specifically Sword's Edge, which also includes Sword's Edge weapons. This means the new Explodey weapon we got this week and Cane Sword are probably going to be your 2 best weapons. By that, I mean this weapon right here is the other alternative. Explodes a bunch of blue gems, grants a random status effect to all Sword's Edge allies, which will be your entire team, and then summons a Sword's Edge troop. So good backup summon while giving you a bunch of stats. Also stun the first slot, which could be okay. And it counts as red-green, which might actually fill some gaps here and there. Aside from that, yeah, it's just Sword's Edge troops. As far as Sword's Edge troops that are actually viable, there are not that many. But some of the main ones you have is spamming Champion of Anu. You have, I guess, Guardian of Law to some degree. Wouldn't advise it as much, but if it's like your only mythic that you have from this place, it'd be perfectly fine. If you want to cheese it, you do have insta-kill off a Lady Marana. Not advised, but is a route. Most of your teams will include a Sir Quat Hadley. Main reason for this is it gives 50% mana start to all knights, and almost the entirety of this place is knights, with the exception of some beasts and dragons. But good, like 2/3 of this place are knights, so generally speaking, you're going to be building a pure knight team while also building a Sword's Edge team. So he'll be able to get the 50% mana start. So if you have him, should be using them all on your team, including your lower rarity team. I didn't show him on the lower rarity team because he is a legend that's you know, not exclusive to Underworld. So he's a little bit harder to get. However, he is in event keys this week, so I guess he's not that hard. Which reminds me, we need to go over the event key drop table. But yeah, if you have him, use him. If you don't, it's not too big a deal. Aside from that, what else is useful here? Queen Herald. I didn't actually use on this team. I think I used on the lower rarity team. But she not only has a resummon of Queen Isabel, which is a legend, and this is only an epic that ends up summoning her, but she also has extra damage to raid bosses. Unfortunately, it'll be half as much as the Dragon Commander, as this will have double magic this week. However, it is still a very strong hit. So if your Dragon Commander was to die for some reason, or you just want Queen Isabel summoned, it's going to be pretty good. And I do show it on the lower rarity team. Sir Gawain, really good on low rarity as well. Has a ton of resummon. We already saw this on the trial team, but it's also good for any team. If you feel like you're dying in any Sword's Edge restriction this week, either for Underworld, Underspire, anything, just throw a Sir Gawain in there, you'll probably be fine. As long as your Sir Gawain doesn't die, it summons random Sword's Edge troops. And this, of course, can summon legends and mythics that you don't have, which could help you out a lot. And it's pretty much everything. That Coronet, I guess, is okay tank. A few mana accumulators here and there. I think I showed this for a team, which I don't think I've ever really realistically used. I think I showed for one of the low rarity teams. And of course, my favorite troop, Peasant. At least for arena runs. It's too underpowered outside of it. But anyways, since we're talking about all this too, let's go over to the event key drop table. So as far as event keys are concerned, well, if nothing else, it is by far the easiest kingdom in the entire game to get the 5-star, 10-star, 20-star, and literally name the star number. Just because the sheer number of troops, it has never been easier to get any star level you want for Sword's Edge. We have the event key drop table that will drop you pretty much everything that you need for that. You might still need to get like a few pet upgrades or something else, some weapon upgrades, which you can get from Soulforge this week. Well, not the pets, but the weapons. But yeah, you pretty much get everything you need this week for upgrading this place. Should be pretty straightforward. Of course, it does require a lot of resources, as every 30-star does. But it is by far the easiest one to go for if you were trying to get your first one. It is, I believe, just for armor bonus, but, you know, armor adds up. It's good for Rowan, Guard's Avatar builds, a few other things. Anyways, as far as reasons you would open event keys this week. Well, first, what's not in drop table? I believe it's just the 5 faction troops. All 5 of the ones from Crypt Keepers. And there are 5 of them. It has gotten one of those event thingies, which ends up adding to Crypt Hound. And is that really it? Yeah, just those 5 are the only ones not in drop table. As far as things that you're looking for that are in drop table, I would say there's really only one. Unless you're just looking to bolster up your star level. And that is Sir Gawain. Sir Gawain, you probably see me using it a ton with Guard's Avatar. Guard's Avatar Sir Gawain combo. Really good for quick kill for Underworld. It's basically like Rowan into Mirage Queen in a sense, except way higher rarity. This being the lower rarity of the two, but you still might be one that you're missing from it. But yeah, he gives 50% mana start to all knights. This is obviously very situational when this is useful, as knights are not the greatest of categories within the game, but they still cover quite a bit, and there are quite a lot of them out there. So there are occasions where this can get used, and this is very useful this week with how many events we have that are Sword's Edge related, as he's pretty much the main troop that you would put into any Sword's Edge team to kind of connect everything together, as most Sword's Edge teams are based almost entirely off of knights rather than dragons. So definitely highly advise getting at least that. Aside from that, it's mostly just utility troops, like Queen Isabel. Champion Vanu in the Mythic line, I would say, is probably the best of the 3, just because of the utility of its ability overall. Guardian of Law is not awful. I just feel like it's way too situational to get used a lot of times. It does have a really cool reduction, but with most reductions, troops like this in the game, you just throw a single stun on them and they do basically nothing. So it's still in that category of like tank mythic that I feel like just overly blocks your mana a lot of times, rather than actually doing something. Though it does have an ability that's less awful than quite a few of the other tank mythics, if nothing else. Anyways, yeah, it's a pretty skippable week for event keys unless you're just really, unless you're trying to pick up Sir Gawain, or Sir Gawain Headley, I mean. Or you're trying to get a star level for Sword's Edge, whatever that may be due to how easy it is to do so. It also has a lot of low rarity stuff in the drop table, which makes it a lot easier to get any kind of objective that's like do X number of troops kind of things. As of course the lower rarity troop, the easier they are to upgrade. And Sword's Edge, with how old the kingdom is and just how many things it has a ton of low rarity stuff that can bolster up your star level. So those are basically the main reasons you throw down event keys. Overall, pretty skippable week unless you're really looking to get your star level up on that kingdom for a little bit of extra armor. Anyways, I just went over raids already, so we don't need to do that. As far as things that we have going on throughout the week, obviously, of course, the Fortune and Glory. Make sure to finish this out. We already just went over that earlier. But don't forget about the event every single day, as it is a daily until it's done. Do make sure to do that, otherwise you will miss out on a little bit of your points, which may cost you extra gems, or missing one of the rewards potentially, so make sure to be doing that every single day. Tuesday, we have ourselves the faction event for Crypt Keepers. I wouldn't say this is the most annoying faction, but it is a little bit of a luck-based one. You have to land an insta-kill basically 12 times in a row. You generally have enough durability on the troop that this will be fine. It's not normally too big a deal, but it is a pretty luck-based faction, though not nearly as bad as the one we have this Friday. This Wednesday, we're getting the Valentine's Day pet, technically 2 Valentine's Day pets. We have the 2024 one coming in game, and on stream at the normal time, as we always do, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this channel, we will be having one of the old Valentine's Day pets to hand out as well. So technically 2 Valentine's Day pets that day, but as far as the one in game, we'll be getting the 2024 one, which for whatever reason seems to just be flowers. Not flowers with eyes, not flowers with a face, literally just flowers. Which is a bit of a weird pet as far as some things that we've gotten in the past, but yeah, it's literally just flowers for Valentine's Day. Thursday, we have the class event for Knight Hero class. The Knight itself does have 20% bonus this week, so it might actually be worth using occasionally here and there this week. I actually showed it in a couple of teams. Not necessarily because Knight Hero class is good, but because it's 20% stats this week. And if you're already building a pure Knight team, it's not that bad overall, if you already have like Sir Quet and Hadley and everything on your team. But generally speaking, Knight is pretty underwhelming. That is one of the few weeks where it actually does get to get used, so might as well use it while it's viable for 7 days, and then we'll never get used until next Sword's Edge event. And then Friday, we have ourselves a faction event for Werewoods. Werewoods is probably the most annoying faction in the entire game, among one of them. I would definitely say it's top 3 hardest faction to do. This is mostly because every single thing in Werewoods, including the new troop that's coming out this Friday, has a chance to transform into something they aren't. Which means every time you want to cast any ability at all, you have a chance that that troop will become not that troop. And this is a very, very annoying mechanic. as it essentially forces you to have to go a little bit skull heavier and very rarely cast your abilities, as every time you cast, you can completely ruin the setup of your team. And it's just very annoying. You constantly have to hold troops, you have to constantly keep casting ones that you might not necessarily want to cast at a given time, and when you do cast the ones that you do need to cast, they might transform into something that you definitely don't need on the team, one of the weaker ones from the faction, and it's just a whole mess. Honestly, I would say it is the hardest faction in the game. I'm not sure if it actually is, but it sure feels like it with how luck-based it is. Which is probably the best time ever to be doing it this weekend. It is a 3-day long event. You get a bunch of extra sigils that you can put towards it. It's 3 days long, so you don't have to rush to do it all in one day like Tuesday faction events. And having the extra potion effects, having the extra stats would make it substantially easier. Of course, with all the stats and the potion effects that you can still get from upgrading these days, it is very easily doable without spending a bunch of gems during the event. But if you do want to get it done easily, doing it this weekend and just buying up to like tier 7 several times in order to complete it out will definitely make it a lot simpler, that's for sure. But it is among one of the hardest pure factions, I would say, in the entire game, and still is to this day. Aside from that, what else? Soulforge. So, I didn't actually peek at this yet. What do we have for Soulforge? Anything good? Anything good? What even is that? Oh yeah, that's that one useless troop. I forgot that even existed so bad. Let's see. I'm seeing nothing. Mama Sarah, Mother of Darkness. I remember when this was meta. You remember when this was meta? Remember like a year ago when they nerfed Night Spider into the ground? I remember. I wish it was good again. That was a fun team. It still exists, but it also doesn't exist because she just gets webbed and then does nothing. But yeah, I would say all of this is pretty much useless in the current state of game. Yagway's okay, but I wouldn't bother spending 800 gems for it to go get it. Especially since we just sent an event for him the other week. We probably got him in event keys already. Draculus is better true damagers out there. So yeah, pretty skippable week for troops. As far as weapons, there are a few things that you might want to pick up. Why do I feel like there's a special crafty weapon this week? Yes, that is there. I knew it. I didn't forget this time. The Blade of Nefertani. Get this weapon. If you do not have this weapon, get this weapon before the end of the week. Priority over everything. The Blade of Nefertani is required to craft. I believe it's Dawnbringer, right? Where's Dawnbringer and all this mess? That's Dustbringer. Wait, never mind. That's the one I meant to say. Dustbringer. So, Dustbringer is a weapon that requires 3 other weapons. But unlike Dawnbringer, where those 3 weapons are always available, Dustbringer's weapons only roll around when the kingdom rolls around. And given that Sword's Edge has more troops than any other kingdom in the game, this is a very likely kingdom for the weapons to never really come back for a long time. Which means on Tuesday, you're going to want to go get the faction weapon if you don't have it. This week, you're going to want to get the Blade of Nefertani if you don't already have it. And honestly, if you have the resources for it, just get every single weapon here if you don't already have it. Or at least some of the better ones. But Blade of Nefertani's hands down the highest priority weapon. As it'll likely be the main thing that will block you from getting Dustbringer. Because Zoom is going to need a lot more events, and Drifting Sands is going to need a lot more events, where Sword's Edge is not going to need that many more events. And given that Sword's Edge has an event right now, it honestly could be 2025 by the time we have a Sword's Edge event again. So 100% do not leave this week without it. Otherwise, you probably won't be able to build a Dustbringer until like late 2025 or something absurd. So 100% make sure you get yourself a Blade of Nefertani. Even if you don't feel like you're going to get Dustbringer anytime soon, you're going to want to have this just in case you do. Even if you feel like you'll never craft it. Get the 3 base weapons regardless. And that's applicable to all of them. Just get the 3 base weapons. And if you ever do want to craft it for 1,000,000 souls, then you can. Because if you want to do it the other way around and decide you want to get Dustbringer and you're missing like 2 of these weapons, or even just 1, like the Blade of Nefertani, it will take forever and a half for that weapon to roll around. So just make sure to get them beforehand. Aside from that, you'd mostly just utility troops. If you're looking for anyone to help you out the most this week, I would say probably Cane Sword is the most useful. Deals a bunch of damage to an enemy, boosted by Knight allies, and then summons or creates a mix of blue and red based on Knight allies. And a lot of teams that you're going to be building this week use 4 times Knights for things like the World event. The raid boss. For things like the raid boss, Underspire, anything else? I guess the class event technically, if you do it for that on Thursday. But yeah, you're going to be needing that weapon a lot. Is there anything else that's kind of good? Flail of Guard's not horrible if you want to get that as an explodey weapon. And aside from that, it's mostly just the standard weapons that you kind of see in the kingdom. But yeah, Blade of Nefertani, do not leave this week without it. And if you're looking for other good ones, Flail of Guard and yeah, Flail of Guard and Keen Sword are your 2 other ones that you'd most likely want to go for. Gosh, they have so many mana accumulation ones. They literally have the full like trifecta going on for those mana accumulation ones. But yeah, just make sure to get Blade of Nefertani. Anyways, aside from that, no, not that. Oh yeah, we also get the free Valentine's Day thing on Wednesday as well. Almost forgot about that. Obviously, we have an offer every single day, but on Valentine's Day, we get like 50 free gems and probably some red arcanes and like a few other things, whatever else that is. I think it's like 50 gems and a handful of other stuff, but yeah, a little bit extra loot on that day as well, on top of the pet. Anyways, team time? I think it's team time. So, all teams will be in the description below if you want to go and copy paste save them. Let's start all the way from the top with raids. Raids are a restriction of Sword's Edge. However, keep in mind you also have the added restriction of making sure Dragon Commander is on your team. This is pretty much required as she gives you double points, though you're probably also going to want to use her anyways because she has double magic. But yeah, she deals a bunch of damage to boss enemy. I didn't go over this earlier, and then creates 5 yellow lightning gems, which I thought it was only on kill. Apparently, she actually does it every time she casts. That's interesting. I thought it was only on kill when I read it earlier. Though I did read it on the spoiler thing, I didn't actually see the in-game one, so that might be why. But yeah, use Keen Sword as mentioned as weapon earlier. It's by far probably the best one in there. Though do make sure to prioritize the Nefertani one, as that one is a little bit more important due to Deathbringer, you know, to get Deathbringer eventually. But as far as usefulness this week, Keen Sword's definitely up there. Creates a bunch of blue and red. Almost everything here uses blue and red. And of course, we could feed this into Commander, Dragon Commander. And also feed this in Queen Jezebel. Queen Jezebel spam is a pretty decent strategy this week. If you feel like you lack most other options, just keep spamming as many Queen Jezebels as you have on your team. Do like 1 mana accumulation option, and you're probably good to go. You could win pretty much every single thing this week just by spamming Queen Jezebel. Next, we have ourselves the lower raids team, which of course we can't use Queen Jezebel or other things. For this, we're using the weapon that you get from the event anyways, just by tier 3, and you're already going to have this weapon. We're doing this with Knight Coronet, just has been always a good low rarity option from Sword's Edge, has been for all of time. He's plopped down the first slot, has a little bit of extra stats and reduction, and just has a double tap or denying the purple of the enemy team. You have Queen's Herald, which can summon a Queen Jezebel, which you might not have access to. It's a legend, so you'll be able to get that summoned and have her do her normal effects as she always does. And she also does 5 times damage to the boss itself, if you have that fully maxed. And of course, you'll have double the magic into 5 times extra damage off your Dragon Commander. So you have 2 things that can do damage to the raid boss. One for double damage and one for the standard 5 times damage. Anyways, next we have the faction. Faction for Crypt is red and purple. Do keep in mind, given that Sword's Edge might not come back for a while, you might want to get the Tuesday faction event weapon tomorrow and buy into that for the faction event if you don't already have it. If I'm not mistaken, it's basically like Life and Death but weaker, I believe is the one from this place. You almost never use it, but it's going to be forever and a half before it rotates back around again, so you might want to have it. There are some very niche situations where it does get used as a true damage hero weapon, depending on your restrictions. But anyways, as far as the lower rarity team, we end up going with a, not lower rarity team, but lower level range. We have basically a Merilith Leprechaun and 2 Scourge of Honor, but you could do this with any kind of premise. Pretty much every single team for this, you could easily go like Thrall, Leprechaun, damage, and if you just do that, you're going to be perfectly fine. This is just Merilith Leprechaun into damage, with the Scourge of Honor being the main premise for it. And I believe we do something pretty similar for the upper range too, which oddly enough is actually lower rarity. Double Tesla. So of course, if you have Tesla, just feed it mana, win, click Tesla button, as is pretty much every Tesla related event. If you could use Tesla, just click Tesla and you've won. Next, we have ourselves Pure Faction team. So Pure Faction is basically spam Lady Marana and carry 1 Graveseer. It might seem weird to have something on your team that converts something to purple when you use no purples. However, the main reason to carry this is not because you need purple, but because you need to counter the enemy's Graveseer. On both the first and final fight of Crypt Keepers, there will be a Graveseer on the opposing team. And in order to counter that Graveseer, you need to cast your own Graveseer, or not cast your own Graveseer. Essentially, if there's alignment on the starting board, you cast it. If there's not, you let them cast and let them waste their ability. But if you do have alignment, or they're about to get alignment, you simply just deny it with your Graveseer, and then go about your day with the spam of Lady Marana. She also gets extra insta-kill based on how many purples are on the board, so even though you don't technically use the mana, you are still using the gems for insta-kill chance, so works out that way. You can even use it on the other battles that aren't the first or final battle in order to increase your kill chances ever so slightly. And essentially, you just spam Lady Marana until you win. She has insta-kill. You just keep landing insta-kills, and you just hope you get lucky. And as long as you get lucky enough, you will end up winning out the faction event. And as long as you have at least 2 of them going into the final fight, you should be fine. And then just deny them with Graveseer, get your Lady Maranas going, and obviously focus their Lady Marana before it insta-kills you back. As far as Underspire is concerned, this is Sword's Edge restriction. So pretty much the same restriction as the raid event, with the added benefit of not needing a raid troop, so you can kind of just run whatever. Speaking of that, just spam Champion of Anu. If you don't have spam Champion of Anu, next best bet is I cannot type this morning. I still cannot type this morning. Spam Queen Isabel. Obviously, you could just triple up Queen Isabel or something similar. Whatever you have that does a lot of damage from this kingdom, just do it with Sir Quentin Hadley and you're good to go. You could even do it with a mana accumulation hero weapon. There's a lot of ways to go about it. But if you have the Champion of Vanus, you use your Champion of Vanus. He's by far the best AoE that the kingdom has. Honestly, one of the only few AoEs that the kingdom even has. He gains a bunch of stats per turn, so even if you're stalling a bit, you're still getting a lot. And with things like Sir Quentin Hadley or other mana accumulation weapons and such, you can get a mana pretty quickly. Next, we have the lower range for Underspire. As far as lower range, obviously Knight Coronet is pretty much always going to be used on your low range team. Just kind of covers everything. It's not the best of troops, but it just does everything to some degree. Then we have Cane Sword. If you can get this from Soulforge, if you don't want to get it, you can replace it out with the weapon that we have from... it doesn't cover as many colors, but you can replace it out from the weapon that we have from the raid event this week, which is a little bit more accessible. But if you can end up getting it or already have it, Keen Sword will be a little bit better. Then we have Knight Errant. I don't feel like I've ever bothered using this on a team, but it does have a rather unique ability. It creates 9 yellow gems, boosted by defeated enemies. So for every kill you get on the enemy team, it does 4 additional gems. This means by the time you have 1 kill on the opposing team, you're creating 13 mana. And then by the second, you're creating 17. That's honestly not that bad. By 2 kills, you're essentially guaranteed extra turning every single time she casts. It's a little bit clunky to feed her mana. However, Sir Gawain does use that yellow and then gives her blue. Plus brown is his weapon, which can also feed back to her. So you are getting mana somewhat looping. The biggest issue she's always kind of had is just not really having a particularly good way to getting it back to everyone. It also requires some upfront kills, which a lot of times you can't really do that as well. Like, you already have to be winning to some degree before she really gets activated. And by that point, you already won. So it's not always the best, but in situations like this, you can actually kind of get away with it. Especially in Underspire when you don't really care if you actually take a death or not. Whereas in Underworld, this would be a little bit harder to end up utilizing. Next, we have ourselves the Knight class event. Keep in mind, I think I already mentioned this, but I haven't actually shown this yet. The hero class does have 20% extra stats this week. I believe it's 10% to all Swords Edge and 10% to all Knights, if I'm not mistaken. Which includes almost the entirety of Swords Edge, as a good majority of them, well, all of them are obviously Swords Edge troops, but a good majority of them are also Knights. I think it says it right there. Yeah, Swords Edge and Knights are the 2 10% this week. So that does mean that the Knight hero class has 20% extra stats, which means your weapons that are corresponding to it also do more damage. So you can kind of do that to cheese the class event a little bit quicker. Sir Quentin Hadley's for the 50% mana start, as you do with pretty much all Knights. And Lance Knights, not because their ability is any good, but because there's Water Link, so you can get your weapon up. Obviously, if you don't have Dawnbringer, run any blue weapon that hits all enemies, whatever your best option is. You get one for free from Frost Mage after 250 wins, which is the most likely hero class that you'd probably have that has an upgrade as well. But if you have something better like Dawnbringer, run Dawnbringer. Next are just teams we kind of already showed last week, but I figured we reiterate them since it's the final week of the Lunar New Year event. We have ourselves a Guards Avatar Sir Quentin Hadley team, and guess who's in event key drop table? So if you have the Guards Avatar but are somehow missing Sir Quentin Hadley, well, you pretty much have that team now. For the lower range, we have the Queen Zachi kind of build with it. Nice cheap weapon that you get from 250 wins from the Dervish hero class. And there's the Finesse you already have laying around, which is the Ehe Cattle for a little bit of mana accumulation. And then the team that we've been using for it, which is Stellaryx, of course. I try not to show Stellaryx teams in Monday videos, just because if we were to, every single possible option that allows Stellaryx would be Stellaryx. So to make for a little bit more variety in showing teams, I restrict myself from pretty much never showing Stellaryx in Monday videos, or honestly any team video for the most part, unless we're just showing like the absolute most broken things in the game. However, yes, if in doubt, put a Stellaryx on your team. If you own Stellaryx and it can be used, it should be on your team in every situation in the current state of the game, as it is just broken beyond belief ever since they buffed it a couple weeks ago. So yeah, if you can use it, you should be using it, and you can use it for this holiday event, so you should be using it if you have it. But otherwise, obviously, you don't need something this strong to win it out. But if you do have it, you can do it with this. You could also run Bork in first slot and run Mech instead. I'm going down more the Dragon route with 50% mana start, but you can also go down the Mech route, get the Bork in there for more consistent mana if you feel like you want to have that. As having Bork Ehe Cattle will pretty much always guarantee that you'll get it. But in this case, we're just going for the hope that Empower does, and even if it doesn't, half mana start on that, it's already going to get it rolling pretty quickly. Just swipe a few things, you're pretty much good to go. But anyways, guys, that will wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week, a wonderful Valentine's Day. And I will catch you guys later. Feel free to leave a like on the video. Helps a lot and is greatly appreciated. And thanks for watching. Bye, everyone.